Goeienaand, good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. And one of the most beautiful tourist spots in South Africa is Cape Town. No one can ever suggest different, except now. In fact, Peter and Skiran have both sent me related emails about what's happening to the seawater of Cape Town. And the pollution, and this is sewage, is growing exponentially in this highly tourist area. I'm going to show you some footage of the Victoria and Albert Hotel, which is a hotel I stayed at back in 2011 when I was in Cape Town. And then we'll get on to the story. Now, clearly, seals no longer play in that bay or that area in front of the Victoria and Albert Hotel like they used to because of the pollution. It's so sad. Anyway, here comes a video, and then we'll have a look at what they have. What you're listening to now is the sounds of Cape Town. That's Table Mountain in the background, taken from the Victoria and Albert Hotel, and that's the water, the Atlantic Ocean for the first time. Deb's seen it. Beautiful place, absolutely stunning place. We've just got the sun rising here. Got some boats just below us. Boats over there. There's another part of Table Mountain there. And of course that's the city. Today we're going to explore. We had a really late night last night because we had a lot to put up on the web. So we'll probably have some brekkie just now and then go out and discover the city. This is the Victoria and Albert Hotel, a magnificent hotel in Cape Town. That's our room there with the curtains open. We have these sweeping views of, as you've seen earlier out there, of the dock. And of course that is Table Mountain in the background. It's very difficult sometimes to see what we're pointing at. That's why we get some strange vision. Now look at Coca-Cola stuffing everything up with that crates of Coca-Cola for the soccer cup. Just shocker. There's another very upmarket hotel, the Cape Grace on the waterfront. There's some beautiful places here. And over there is the bay in Cape Town. This is just a magical spot. And very upmarket, very expensive. It's about 2,500 rand a night, which is about $400 to $500 a night, but it's worth it. And look at that, isn't that stunning? And this is where we have breakfast. Breakfast is served till 11 o'clock, so it's rather good. This is right outside the hotel, a boat leaving for the open water. Isn't it peaceful here? There's another one in the background there. Spirit of Victoria. Okay, that's what the little bay in front of the Victoria and Albert Hotel, which is a huge tourist area for Cape Town, looked like 8 years ago. It's changing. Another seawater pollution by raw sewage is happening in Cape Town, at the prime tourist destination of Africa, at the V&A waterfront, which has 24 million visits last year. Raw sewage pollution is over 400%, but the pollution is not the only problem. Quality Filtration Systems was awarded the contract to build the temporary desalination plant in January last year. When Cape Town was facing the prospect of becoming the first major city in the world to completely run out of water, the plant was built to cope with up to 30% variation of the seawater quality. However, the city of Cape Town is now releasing the raw sewage that increased pollution to 400%, which makes the plant unusable. Millions are now needed to modify the plant, and a dispute is going on between the city and the quality filtration systems. The worst thing of all is that the pollution seems to be intentional. It is a result of a political war to kill the desalination plant, which was a DA project ran by Patricia de Lille when she was the city mayor. Not only citizens are suffering, but the industry as well. V&A Waterfront contributed 34 billion rand to SA's GDP and is sustaining 21,790 direct jobs and 17,516 indirect jobs. What can be more important for ANC than removing DA from Cape Town? We all know the motto of liberation movements: by any means necessary. And then Skiron has given me this article to have a look at. And basically it confirms what he's saying. And I'll just relate it back to you because this is important. It just shows how politics they shoot themselves in the foot. The seawater feeding into the desalination plant at the V&A Waterfront is polluted by raw sewage from the Greenpoint Outall pipe and is sometimes up to 400% dirtier than specifications the city gave companies that tended to build the plant. This is according to Musa Ndlovu, Director of Quality Filtration Systems, or QFS, the company that was awarded the contract to build the temporary desalination plant in January last year, when Cape Town was facing the prospect of taps running dry on day zero in early April. And Ndlovu said once they had found out the high level of pollution, it had cost them millions to modify the plant to deal with it. The city gave us tender data about the feed water. Everyone that tendered had to work off the same data, not to their own tests, and we designed a plant accordingly. Then, when we did tests during commissioning of the plant, we found contaminations that were not in the tender data, Ndlovu said. They warned the city and then spent an additional 7 million rand on installing extra equipment to ensure the 2 million litres it produced every day met the national drinking water standards. This is one of several areas of dispute between the City of Cape Town and QFS, which has terminated its contract with the city and is now suing the city for 80 million rand for breach of contract and for damages. In its defence, the city has said a requirement in the tender was that the desalination plant had to be able to cope with varying seawater quality conditions, likely to be found at the site close to the harbour entrance. And Ndlovu said desalination plants could handle normal variations in seawater quality, which was around 10%. To be on the safe side, the company had opted to build a plant that could cope with 30% variations of the seawater quality data that the city had given them. But 400% is abnormal. We realized the variation was caused mainly by raw sewage, which the city itself puts into the sea. They didn't disclose that in the tender specification data, otherwise we would have designed a plant fit for that purpose, she said. QFS has expertise in treating water contaminated with sewage. In 2010, it built South Africa's first direct reclamation plant in drought-stricken Beaufort West, producing 2.3 million litres of drinking water from sewage effluent every day. And Ndlovu said QFS later found out that Leslie Petrick, a professor of chemistry at UWC, has written to the city in September 2017 to say the tender specifications were inadequate to produce safe drinking water, given the proximity of the Greenpoint sewage outfall plant and the type of desalination plant specified by the city. She warned the city that the tender data excluded sewage contamination, but the city issued the tender in November without this data. On the 13th of March last year, the company's desalination plant, completed with modifications to deal with the sewage-contaminated water, was ready. The water it produced was tested by the city's scientific services and by an independent laboratory, and was found to meet the SA National Standards, or SANS, 241 for drinking water quality. But then nothing happened. Although Cape Town was still facing day zero and the mid-March dam level had shrunk to 22% of storage capacity, and each Cape Townian was restricted to only 50 litres of water a day, the city did not give the company the go-ahead to feed the 2 million litres a day of desalinated water into the system. QFS wrote to the city several times asking for the go-ahead. Instead, on March the 29th, the city's Water and Sanitation Department issued an instruction to QFS that it had to do a whole range of further lab tests, including tests for sewage contamination, as a raw water baseline risk assessment requirement. The city offered to pay for the extra tests because it had not been part of the initial requirement, but later said it would not pay. It was never a requirement for us to treat sewage contaminants. We had to spend our capital on treating the 400% abnormal feed water variation. Our plants always produced water that was compliant. The city never questioned that. The city, however, decided not to compensate us for our plant upgrade and the high operating costs caused by them dumping sewage in the ocean, Ndlovu said. The city eventually gave permission to the QFS to inject the desalinated water into the system on May the 28th, but only 25% of the 2 million litres. On September the 4th, 6 months after the plant was built and ready, the city finally gave permission to inject the full 2 million litres a day into the system. QFS Managing Director Herman Smit said the list of additional pollutants the city had told the company to test for was a full-spectrum sewage analysis. This proved, he said, that they had known about the sewage contamination. Let me repeat this. This proved, he said, that the city had known about the sewage contamination. This is the only reason they delayed injection into the network. In retrospect, they were very scared to accept final water as a result of the raw sewage contamination, but never divulged knowledge thereof, Smit said. The company says the contract stipulates that the city will pay monthly rental for the availability of the water, whether or not it was buying the water. It says it sent the city invoices for rental, but these were not paid. So many things went wrong. We have 5 disputes with the city. The contract says if there are disputes, the parties must go to mediation. We tried to get the city to go to mediation, but they ignored us. In the end, we had to go to the High Court to get an order to force the city to go to mediation. And that's when they arrived. They came with 5 attorneys and an advocate from Weber Wenzel. The mediation process was meant to take 4 days, but it took over 5 months. Now, this is the city of Cape Town we're talking about. Okay, it's run by incompetent people. They don't know what the hell they're doing. They've got their backs against the wall, and they are just wasting millions of rands of taxpayers' money. So how are they going to compensate with that? Well, let me tell you. Okay, considering the huge delays that the city of Cape Town put into actually taking water from this desalination plant, look at how they treat their own residents. And this is a shout out to Sandy. Thanks, Sandy. Cape Townians have 4 more days to register their solar PV systems with the city of Cape Town or be disconnected from the city's electricity grid, a service for which they will then have to pay via a disconnection fine. Registration is mandatory for all small-scale embedded generation or SSEG installations with a generation capacity smaller than 1 megavolt or MVA, which covers the vast majority of the grid solar solutions for residential homes and some small offices. So that's how the city of Cape Town is putting the squeeze on its own ratepayers and residents, and yet when it comes to water quality and putting crap in the sea right next to the prime tourist destination for the whole of South Africa, they don't care. It's quite extraordinary. All right, guys, please remember to subscribe to be kept informed, ring the bell to get the updates, and have a great evening.